What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fight Dialogue. My name is Tim. Sorry for the short notice, the very short notice live stream that I've got going on here right now. But I saw an opportunity to do this and I took it. So here we are. Let me know if everything is good, if the video is good, if the audio is good. I'm using a new camera right now, so I want to make sure that is squared away. I'm sorry that I'm not very organized right now. My computer's making noises. Everything sounds great. Thank you, Phoenix. So, what I'm basically going to be doing for this live chat is not what I normally do. I don't have a ton of time today, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd be covering as many questions as I can. I will try to get to some questions, but mostly today, I'm just going to be doing my breakdown of the entire UFC 280 card because honestly, I haven't been this hyped about a UFC card in a while. And I was going to be very, very sad if I didn't get to talk about it and discuss it with you guys. I was going to do a podcast with Aldrich today, but Aldrich has got some training to do and the times didn't fit together. But fear not, me and Aldrich, we will be reunited whenever we can. It's coming. But yeah, so I decided to make it into a live stream. So let's get right into it, guys. UFC 280. Like I said, super, super hyped about it. And I'm going to go through everything. The prelims, the main card, and of course the main event, which if you're not hyped about that fight, you're not an MMA fan. So the very first fight on the card is Carol Rosa versus Lena Landsberg. And I believe Carol Rosa is coming off a loss. She is ranked higher than Lena Landsberg. Both of them bantamweights. Lena's a little bit bigger, much older, and I think Lena's coming off a loss as well. I can't remember. I feel like I've seen her fight recently, but her record is not great. I'm going to go with the younger fighter from Brazil who's ranked a little bit higher. Obviously, I'm going to be ripping through these prelims a little bit faster than I do the main card. When I get to the main card, I'm going to give you the juicy details. Next fight on the card is Muhammad Mokaev versus Malcolm X Gordon. Mokaev, lots of hype around that guy. I believe he's Chechen or Dagestani, but he moved to the United Kingdom. And Malcolm Gordon is a guy who has put together some wins lately, and pretty impressively. Muhammad is the younger fighter, if I'm not mistaken, with a little bit more hype around him, and I think he's a little bit more well-rounded as well. I think he has a very good ground game. Volume on the mic kind of low. Sorry about that, guys. I'm trying to readjust my area here. I haven't gotten the acoustics quite figured out yet. When I changed everything around in my little office here, it kind of messed up the acoustics. The way I had everything before, the voice was much clearer and it worked out a little bit better. I think the setup I have now is visually more pleasing, but I think I got to do something with the audio, so just bear with me on that one. Going to have to just turn it up today. So yeah, as I was saying, Muhammad Mokaev, I think he's a little bit more well-rounded, has some more weapons in his arsenal. So I'm going to be going with him for this fight. But I think it'll be a good one. That's a proper test for Mokaev, who's I think it'll be his second fight in the UFC. So Malcolm X Gordon is going to be a good challenge for him. Okay. Next is Arman Petrosyan versus AJ Dobson. AJ Dobson is the Contender Series fighter. They actually might both be Contender Series fighters. Arman Petrosyan sticks out in my mind because he had a really, really tough fight when I saw him last. I can't remember if it was a Contender Series fight or if it was like a fight night card or something. I'm pretty sure it took place in the Apex Arena. But guy's got a ton of heart, ton of power too. Just a really, really tough Russian fighter. And AJ Dobson, I don't know too much about him. I just know that He is coming off a loss, so I'm going to be going with our Armin Petrosian for that one. Okay, next we've got Abubakar Nurmagomedov versus Gadzi Armagadziev. I probably didn't pronounce that right. But Abu Nurmagomedov, I think he's fought in the UFC before and lost. These are welterweights. Gadzi is a middleweight. I'm sorry, is a welterweight fighter. I just said that. Coming off the Contender Series, he only has one loss on his record, where Abu has 3. I believe Nurmagomedov's style is the typical Nurmagomedov style that you might expect. And I don't know too much about Gadzi, to be honest with you. I think I've only seen him fight once. So I don't know who to go with in this matchup. I think a safe bet is Nurmagomedov, just for the namesake. But like I said, I think he lost his last fight. I think he got submitted. So yeah, not too sure about that one. I'm gonna actually pass on the pick for that. So the next 2 fighters on this card, we're getting more into the recognizable names territories here. We've got Zubair Tukugov versus Lucas Almeida. And Lucas Almeida has really, really impressed me so far in the UFC. He hasn't won all of his fights. I actually can't remember how many fights he has in the UFC, but his well-roundedness has really impressed me, and the crisp cleanness of his boxing and overall striking game is something to watch out for. He's a very tough guy with a very good chin. He does get hit a bit too much for my liking, but with that being said, he has a surprisingly good chin for how much he gets hit, and he always hits back. So, very exciting fighter. Tukugov, obviously an amazing grappler, but he's got some good striking as well. This is one of Khabib's teammates, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it'll be a good fight. It looks like Tukugov is the favorite going into it, which is understandable. I think Tukugov has more fights in the UFC, but has been a little less active. So, I'll go with Tukugov, but I think it'll be a good fight. Next, Volkan Oezdemir versus Nikita Krylov. And Krylov, he's just an example of a guy with so much potential and so much inconsistency. You know, we've seen flashes of greatness from him, and by all accounts, he should have won that fucking fight against Craig Jones. Not Craig Jones. Paul Craig. I don't know why I said Craig Jones. I'm thinking grappling. Sorry. Wrong sport. But, yeah, Paul Craig, you know, it's probably because Paul Craig has really good grappling. You know, you never want to count Paul Craig out, but man, he should have seen that coming. Should have won that fight. He's ranked number 10 right now, and I think if he can just put it together, put all his skills together, and fight a clean fight, just using smart fight IQ, I think he could really make a run for the title. But alas, here we are. And Volkan Oezdemir is a kind of another example of a guy with massive amounts of potential, but just could never put it together, except for his initial run. He is a former title challenger. He, unfortunately for him, had to fight Daniel Cormier. But I remember in that fight, he actually hurt Cormier a little bit. I think he hit him with an overhand right. And yeah, he's a good fighter, man. He's a good striker. I think his chin has degraded a little bit, and he's taken a little bit too much damage in his past couple fights. And I mean, that could be because they've given him absolute murderers, you know, Dominic Reyes, Yuri Prochazka, like I said before, Daniel Cormier. He's not had an easy run pretty much ever since he's been in the UFC. I think he had like 2 fights in the UFC before he was knocking on the door of the title. So he's not had any easy matchups. This is actually the perfect fight to put together. 2 guys that are in a similar position in their careers and are really, really exciting fighters that have the skills to be better than what their ranks show. I'm personally going to pick Krylov in this matchup because he has better grappling for sure than Volkan Oezdemir. Just in general, like the ability to take down, the ability to control. I think they're both on the same kind of wavelength when it comes to submissions. Maybe Krylov has a little bit more to offer off of his back, but I don't think he's really going to be going for the submission. I think he's just going to be looking to take Oezdemir down and beat him up a little bit. So I'm going to pick Nikita Krylov by decision on that one. By the way, guys, as much as I love fights and I watch fights all the time, nonstop, and I'm Irish too, or Irish American, so you would think I'm a little bit luckier when it comes to picking fights. I'm not. I'm terrible at picking fights. So if you're basing what you're going to bet on off my picks, it's the wrong move, guys. It's the wrong move. I'm just doing this for fun. Next fight on the card, Mahmoud Muradov versus Caio Borralho. And Borralho I've seen fight before. I've seen them both fight before. This guy's from where? Uzbekistan. I'm actually going to look up his record. God help me with the spelling. Muradov. Let's just type in Muradov MMA. Muradov MMA. Let's see what comes up. Okay, yeah, SureDog.com. Give me that. 25 wins, 7 losses. He lost to Gerald Meerschaert. Oh, God. He lost by submission. Why don't I remember that fight? And before that, he beat Andrew Sanchez. I do remember that. Flying knee. That was awesome. Trevor Smith before that. That was a knockout. Alessio Di Chirico, he won by decision. So he's got some really... His 4 UFC fights, 3 of them are really nice wins against very, very tough guys. So Muradov is looking good here. Let's check out Caio Borralho. 12 wins, 1 loss. He beat Arman Petrosian, the guy that we were talking about before. Interesting. By decision. He also beat Gadzi Armargadizerja, who we were also talking about earlier. And he's got a win against Jesse Murray on the Contender Series. Another win on the Contender Series. You know what? He does have less losses on his record, but Mahmoud Muradov's record is impressing me a bit more. I think he's had to fight the tougher guys in the UFC thus far, and he just seems like he can take this. So I'm going to pick Muradov for that fight. Now, here's a good one. Our Lord and Savior, Belal Muhammad versus Sean Brady. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say our Lord and Savior, Belal Muhammad, check out the Discord. We have an unhealthy infatuation with the one they call Belal. Remember the name Muhammad. This is an interesting fight, and it's the perfect fight to make. At least for Sean Brady. It doesn't do much for Belal Muhammad because he's ranked higher, but it's the perfect fight for Sean Brady. Not many people remember the Belal Muhammad of the elder days when he was first in the UFC. I don't know if he ever got cut. I can't remember if he got cut at one point. But his first a couple fights in the UFC, he was a bit of a brawler. You know, he was like a well-rounded brawler, but he was a risk taker, man, and he would just go in there and try to slug it out. And he got beat up. He got beat up a bunch of times. I'm pretty sure like his first 3 or 4 fights in the UFC did not go well for him. And then he obviously got a lot smarter, and he rounded out his game a bit more. He sharpened it up. And then he used that sharpness to play it safe. He is a guy with very high fight IQ, and he knows how to get the win. He knows how to grind out a decision now, and it's been working very, very well for him. And ironically, it's getting him made fun of, you know, because people think he's playing it a little bit too safe. But in any case, Sean Brady, up-and-comer, he is got fantastic jiu-jitsu skills, and just like positionally, like there's really no way to outposition the guy on the ground. And he's got good striking too. Bilal's strategy for the past few fights has been to take people down, and like I said, grind out the decision. And you're not going to be able to do that against Sean Brady. You're just not. And Sean Brady's tough enough on the feet to where I don't think Muhammad's going to win there either. So despite the Discord's infatuation with him, I'm going to have to pick Sean Brady. And I feel pretty confident about that pick, even though he's a lower rank. I think it's a bad matchup for Bilal stylistically. Excuse me. All right, now we're on to the main card. Let's do it. Caitlin Chookagian versus Manon Fiorot. I think I pronounced that correctly in the French tongue. Caitlin Chookagian, ranked number 1 at women's flyweight. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. She's fighting a woman that is ranked number 6 and coming off a win, I'm pretty sure. Otherwise, she wouldn't have earned this shot against the number 1 contender. I think Chookagian's more well-rounded. She has the jiu-jitsu game. I haven't seen much of Fiorot's ground game, so I'm going to pick Chookagian. I think that's a pretty easy one to pick. Next, love this matchup. Beneil Dariush versus Mariusz Gamrot. I think I pronounced his first name right. I used to work with a Polish kid named Mariusz, and it was spelt the same way. So if that's the wrong pronunciation, feel free to make fun of me, but that's why I'm pronouncing it that way. Dariush's got amazing jiu-jitsu. He's tough as nails on the feet. May not be the most technical guy on the feet, but he has fucking knockout power, and he will take the fight to you if need be. Gamrot, much more technical. He's got good wrestling, good counter wrestling, pretty good submissions, although I would say Beneil Dariush has the advantage there for sure. Who do I pick for this one? I'm going to pick Beneil Dariush. Now, what I'm going to say about this entire main card is if there was ever a main card where we had the most potential for submission wins, it's going to be this one. There's a lot of grappling and jiu-jitsu expertise on this main card, and I fucking love it. So, yes, I'm going to pick Beneil Dariush by submission. I think Beneil's going to force crazy positions. He's going to force crazy scrambles, and he's going to catch Gamrot. Gamrot's very technical, and it's not easy to catch him, but I think Dariush's experience and aggressiveness and technicality on the ground will get him a finish impressively. Now, what is perhaps the second most intriguing matchup on the card, in my humble opinion, Petr Yan versus Sean O'Malley. Yan, ranked number 1, former champ, tons of experience. Sean O'Malley, none of those, but very charismatic, very technical, and he's a smooth striker. He has grappling, but I would give Petr Yan the advantage when it comes to grappling. Yan is a very underrated grappler. He's extremely well-rounded. He's got decent submissions, excellent defense, excellent wrestling. Sean O'Malley, he's got decent jiu-jitsu from what I've seen, and I've watched his grappling matches. He's not bad. He's not bad in a pure grappling context. We haven't really seen how it translates to MMA too well. The only grappling he's really done was earlier in his career in like his first couple UFC fights against guys that I don't even think are in the UFC anymore. And Petr Yan, like I said, that experience is just irreplaceable when it comes to this type of matchup, and probably the most important thing when it comes to determining who's going to win. It doesn't really do much for Jan. I'm very surprised that he even took this fight, and I respect him for taking this fight. And I respect Sean O'Malley for taking this fight too, because I guarantee the UFC was more than content to just keep feeding him cans. Just keep feeding him cans until he grows his name even more, even more, even more. But I think Sean O'Malley, for all of his, um, silliness, realizes that this is the point where he kind of needs to prove himself. Kind of like the Jake Paul of boxing. Not quite to that extent, but Jake Paul is kind of coming to the realization that you can only crush cans for so long. You have to eventually fight somebody with a substantial record and a substantial skill set. And Sean O'Malley, more than he wants to prove to other people, I think he wants to prove to himself that he is the fighter that he's been saying that he is. With that being said, I don't think he's going to win, but I think Sean O'Malley is made of tougher stuff than we give him credit for. I think it'll be a good fight, and I think it'll actually go the distance, but I think Jan is going to beat the shit out of him for 3 rounds, and I think it's going to go to unanimous decision for the Russian. Last 2 fights on the card. Here we go. Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw. This is a good matchup, and I think I surprised some people with my picks when I was talking about it on the Discord. And I spoke about this the last time that Sterling fought. When he fought Jan, I picked Jan. I thought it was going to be a good fight. I thought it was going to be a better fight than the first fight went for Sterling, but I still didn't think Sterling was going to win. I may regret picking against him once again, but I'm going to go with TJ Dillashaw on the same grounds. I think he's like a really, really tough fighter. I love his style. I love his fights. He's a very exciting fighter. His grappling skills are one of the best, if not the best, in the bantamweight division. But his striking skills are not developed enough. TJ's are. And TJ is too good of a grappler to lose the way Jan did. Jan is a very, like I said, underrated grappler. But Sterling had just enough of an edge there to be able to control him positionally and kind of eke out that decision. There's still many people that think he did not win that rematch. Me as a grappler, I'm a little biased. I gave the back takes, and there was one point where he mounted them and landed some good shots. So I did give one of the rounds a 10-8 for Sterling, and that's I believe I scored it for Sterling. I also score a lot of fights as ties. I noticed that, especially since they gave more sustenance to 10-8 rounds recently in the MMA rule set. So, or not rule set, judging criteria, I guess you could say. Anyway, where was I going with this? I was going towards the route of Dillashaw has good enough grappling to negate Sterling and the striking to get it done. I think this is going to be a mostly stand-up battle. I don't think Sterling will even get Dillashaw to the ground, if at all. And, that's how I think it's going to go. I think it's going to be a decision for Dillashaw. But, Sterling also had a really fucked up neck for a while. And in that first Peter Yan fight, he said that was like the biggest thing that kind of was taking away from his overall ability to look good in that fight. And based on how the second fight went, he looked a lot better, so it's hard to argue. Maybe that will translate into his striking. Maybe he's been working on his striking. Maybe he's just he's going to be able to take more damage and do what he has to do to get it to the ground. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. But I'm still going to pick Dillashaw. I'm going to pick Dillashaw by decision. All right, here we are. The last fight, the one we've all been waiting for. And, I don't think it's any secret that we are kind of considering this not Khabib Ferguson like the ghost version of that, but honestly the better version of that. Because now knowing how Tony Ferguson's career went and how dominant Khabib was, I think we can all predict how that fight would have went. Even when Tony was in his prime, I don't think he would have been able to do much against Khabib. This matchup is more interesting because Charles Oliveira has some things that Tony doesn't. He has all the things that Tony Ferguson had and then some. Islam Makhachev, he is pretty much I don't want to say cookie cutter copy and paste of Khabib Nurmagomedov, but it's as close as that as you're going to get. And I think that Islam has a better fight IQ when it comes to the standing game. Now, I know if you watched my videos on Khabib's striking and Islam's striking, yes, I gave Khabib a higher score. But Khabib's score is carried in large part due to his chin. In large part. That guy can eat a fucking punch. That guy can take some fucking damage to the body and the legs. And if you don't watch any other Khabib fight, watch the Justin Gaethje fight. Rewatch it in slow motion. Gaethje hits him. He hits him hard. And he hits him with everything but the kitchen sink. And Khabib just kept coming forward. Islam is not the fighter, not the kind of fighter that can really do that. He does have a fantastic chin. But Islam, he cannot do what Khabib did. So he has to be more technical in some areas, specifically defense. Is that going to help him that much against Charles Oliveira? I don't know. And I'm gonna lean towards no. This is a bad matchup for Islam, I think. Based on my research on the two fighters. Now everybody says, "Oh, you can't base a fighter's overall skill set on their previous fights." In a way, that's true. But you got to understand, when you're analyzing a fighter's skill set, you got to look at the most recent fights and the most recent examples of relevance, okay? And I say that in every video. And what I mean by that is, if you want to find an example of what Islam Makhachev's takedown defense looks like, you have to go to the most recent example of him being taken down. That's the only way you can tell visibly how good his defense is there. So if the most recent example is from 5 fights ago, then yeah, I can absolutely judge a fighter's skill set from previous fights of that far long ago. Once he proves himself in another recent fight, then you can kind of base things off that and then bridge the gap between, okay, so he got this much better between this fight and that fight. A lot of people like to assume. They like to say, oh, well, that was 10 years ago. He's gotten better since then. Has he? When was the last time Islam Makhachev was threatened with a submission? Has he been threatened with any submissions in the UFC? I can't remember. I did his analysis video quite a while ago. But a lot of the submission threats that he faced in his career were against lower level fighters, not in the UFC. So to say, oh, Islam Makhachev, he has this submission defense. He's never been submitted before, and he's definitely gotten better since the last time he's had a submission attempted against him. Why do you assume that? Why do you assume that? Why do you assume that someone who hasn't had to use submission defense has gotten better in that area? Why would he have to train it if no one's been attempting it on him? I went through the same thing with the Khabib takedown thing. I'm sure you've seen my Khabib grappling video. No one's tried to take him down. No one's even tried since Gleison Tebow. So you got to take all these things into account when you're judging someone. And yes, I will admit, he's probably gotten better in most areas. But I cannot definitively say whether or not he has gotten better in certain areas unless I've seen it for myself. Okay? I can make a good educated guess about it, but I can't assume. With all that being said, Charles Oliveira has improved almost everywhere, particularly in the striking department, and especially in the offensive categories of the striking game. He's very, very dangerous on the feet, okay? And if he gets hurt, he always has his jiu-jitsu to fall back on, literally, okay? He'll pull guard, and he'll do what he has to do. He did it against Justin Gaethje. He did it against Poirier. He does it against almost everybody, okay? And Makhachev does not have those options. Makhachev's route to victory has to be by decision. It has to be. Based on Charles's most recent fights, I don't think he's going to finish him on the feet. I think that's pretty obvious. I don't think he's going to finish him with ground and pound. He might beat him up with ground and pound, but I don't think he's going to finish him with ground and pound. Okay? Charlie has a lot of options to negate ground and pound. Okay? And I don't think he's going to submit Charles. It's possible. Charles has been submitted before. It's been a while. But it's also not been a while since people have attempted submissions on him. Tony Ferguson was looking for submissions against Charles Oliveira. And everybody loves to talk about how good Tony Ferguson's submissions are, right? So here we have a guy who has not been submitted in a good amount of time and has had submissions attempted against him several times. Charles has improved his submission defense. And I don't think Islam is going to go that route. I just don't think so. It's possible, but I don't think so. So in all honesty, Islam's best chance to win this fight is to take Charles down often and early in every round and hold him there and try to do as much damage with ground and pound as possible. And there is a good possibility of that happening. I'm not on a soapbox here trying to say, oh, this is going to be rough for Islam. I don't think he's going to win this fight. Islam could very well win this fight. But as I always say when I'm picking fights and I'm kind of trying to judge who I think is going to win, I go off of who has more options, who has more ways to win. Charles has the striking technique, defensively and offensively. He has the advantage there. He has the advantage in power. He has the advantage in reach, height, leverage. He without a doubt has a submission advantage. He has a submission advantage against everybody he fights. He's hands down the best submission artist we've ever seen in the octagon. He's got good ground and pound. I don't think he has the advantage there against Islam. He's got good control positionally. He's got good takedowns, surprisingly good takedowns. Islam has the advantage there, but it's not an overwhelming advantage, is my point. So yes, I'm going to pick Charles in this matchup, but I think it's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be a good fight. I'm super excited about it. And I think despite all the shit that people talk about, both of these guys, they're going to show what they're made of. I can't wait. Cannot wait for this card. So I'm going to get to a few questions here, and then I'm going to end it because I got to eat dinner with the wife and kids here. So let's see what we got going on. I'm just going to kind of jump around here, so pop in your questions, and I'll just try to get to what I can. Thoughts on the potential of Chito? I personally don't think beating two older former champs who were winning the fight before they lost, by the way, that's true, is that impressive. Jose took him to school not too long ago. You know, that's a good point. But Cheeto has also shown, Cheeto's been showing off a lot of striking lately. Everybody forgets about Cheeto's grappling. Cheeto's an excellent grappler with excellent jiu-jitsu. Um, so while in terms of merit, he's maybe not impressed too many people, but in terms of just overall skill set, you can see it. You can see that that guy has a well-rounded skill set and some options. Sorry, I was just looking at another one. But I think Cheeto's an interesting fighter, and that's why people are giving him some slack when it comes to moving up in the rankings. So I like Cheeto. I want to see him continue moving up. The Armored Officer, thank you for the super chat. On a scale from 1 to gay, how donkey balls is Ngannou? I don't even know what this question is asking, but I'm gonna go with the highest on the scale, because donkey balls sounds like a compliment, and Ngannou's he's a badass. What round do you think the main event ends in? I'm going to pick Charles by submission round 2. My bad. I didn't say the method or the round. I just said that Charles is going to win. But yeah, I think Charles wins submission round 2. How do I have the Stipe versus Jones fight? I've got Jones. Poor Stipe, man. It's too late. It's too late in his career to be fighting somebody like Jones. Is it possible that Stipe can win? Yes, absolutely. He's got the tools. He's got the skills, but I don't think he has the chin anymore. I don't think he has the chin. How do I see Arman Tsarukyan versus Damir Ismagulov fight going? I love that matchup. I fucking love Arman Tsarukyan, man. I've been an Arman Tsarukyan fan ever since he fought Islam. Tsarukyan is the best guy Islam has ever fought. And at the time, he wasn't ranked. I think Arman is ranked now. But that fight was so good. If you're a grappling fan, go watch that fight. It's one of the best wrestling fights ever in MMA. I love that fight. And Arman looked fantastic. And Islam looked even better, obviously, because he won the fight. And Damir Ismagulov is looking great as well, an up-and-comer. And I think it's going to be a good fight. I'm going to take Arman, but it should be fun. Who else we got? What else we got? Sugar Sean is going to get an easy KO win against Jan. Change my mind. Maybe. He is he's a smooth striker, man, and he seems to have power in that weight class. So who knows? I'm not picking him, but to each their own. What else we got? Sorry, my eyes are bad. I'm not wearing my glasses. I don't wear my glasses when I record because I got the light and it just like shines off my glasses and it's like I'm wearing headlights on my face. What are some MMA based channels that I watch? I try to stay away from analysis channels because I don't want other people's analysis to sway mine subconsciously or advertently. You know, the Weasel, he does a great job. Luke Thomas is probably one of my favorites. Dan Hardy. The problem with Luke Thomas is he gets a little bit too much into the weeds sometimes, and it's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? He just threw a jab, and you just gave me a 30-minute explanation on it. But for the most part, I love Luke Thomas. But yeah, I try to only watch their stuff after I've already made like a video about somebody because I don't want what they say to influence what I'm saying or seeing. I try to make my analysis as pure and as me as I possibly can. But I love MMA On Point. That's not MMA analysis channel. So yeah, I watch that. I'm friends with a bunch of other MMA channels. In the Pocket MMA, I've spoken to those guys a bunch of times. MMA Slam podcast. He's a smaller channel, but he's got great analysis, and I've actually had him on the podcast before. So yeah, a bunch of good channels there. Just before you go, what's for dinner? My wife had like a potluck thing at work, and she said she's bringing some home for us. So I don't even know exactly what is a potluck. What do you do at a potluck? Just make food? So we're gonna see. I'm like a human garbage disposal, man. I'll pretty much eat anything. I love all different foods, all different cultures. If it's edible, I'll fucking eat it. Um, what's the worst stylistic matchup for John Jones at heavyweight? Who the fuck is even at heavyweight for Jones to fight? Rankings, heavyweight. Probably Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane. That guy is so technical. He's got good grappling. Um, yes, you could say, well, Francis Ngannou controlled him. Then, of course, John Jones can control him. John Jones is smaller than Ngannou. He's smaller than Ngannou. I know he's bulking up, but he's not. He's still not going to be as big as Ngannou. And Ngannou was aggressive too. He was super aggressive. Jones's last fights have been very conservative in terms of the pace and everything else. I think that's a tough matchup for him. I don't know what's going on with my stream. Okay, we're back. All right, I got time for a few more questions, y'all. I think Sterling can submit Dillashaw without taking him down. Just create back exposure. What do you reckon? Yeah, back exposure is important. He can jump on his back. It's harder to do in MMA. You don't see it as often. Yeah, you see it sometimes up against the cage, but it's hard to spot it when it's successful. You know what I mean? It's not easy to strangle somebody from a backpack position in MMA. The guy that's standing has a lot of options and a lot of ways to remain standing. Mostly the cage being many parts of that. Thoughts on how Paddy the Baddy puts on weight after a fight? Yeah, I don't think it's healthy. I don't think weight cuts in general are healthy. I like fighters to just live their life and eat whatever food they want, and whatever weight they want to walk in and fight somebody at, then that should be it. I'm not talking about absolutes or anything like that, like open weight. No. But fight at your natural weight. I think one of the reasons Paddy binges so much is because he has to cut so much weight, and it's probably, I like food too, man. I want to live. If I have to cut weight for fucking 3 weeks and then dehydrate the shit out of myself, yeah, I'm gonna go to White Castle after that and eat a fucking crave case. Like, it's not healthy, but neither is weight cutting. If you're gonna be unhealthy, you might as well just fucking go back and forth. Like, fuck it, as long as you're enjoying yourself. So from a mental state, I get where Paddy's coming from. But yeah, it's definitely, obviously, not healthy. But I think they should just get rid of weight cutting. But that's a bigger issue. Let's do 2 more. I think Curtis Blades would be a tough matchup for John Jones. I think John Jones has the striking advantage there and could put it together enough to get an easy decision victory against Curtis Blades. But in a grappling sense, yes, absolutely, it's a tough matchup for Jones. What do you think about How Good is Anderson Silva's striking video? I almost made it, dude. I almost made it recently because Anderson Silva's fighting Jake Paul. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to make this video. I'm going to put it out right before he fights Jake Paul. But I got a little bit too tied up with this Islam video. Guys, it takes a while to make those fucking videos. It really does. As much as I love doing them, I wish I could get them out faster, but I just can't. The product's not going to be good enough. I watch all of their fights, and then I got to pull all the footage from it, and then I got to write a script. And then as I'm piecing the video together, I'm like, wait a second, I didn't notice that before, and I got to rewrite the script, and then I got to re-fucking record the script, and it's a little bit of a disorganized mess sometimes, just because I'm trying to cram as much information into these videos as possible and make it good. I want the quality to be good, and I even rushed this Islam video a little bit, and I caught a mistake after I put it out there, and I was like, God damn it, now I look like an idiot. So I really want to give you guys a polished product, and as much as I love making more videos for you guys, because I'm sure that would make you happy, it wouldn't make you happy if the quality was bad, right? So yeah, I just try to keep it as clean as possible, and I really do want to do more videos, and maybe someday I'll have the time to do multiple "How Good Is There" series videos per month, per week. But at this point in my life, I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. But maybe Anderson Silva will be another one that I do a little bit farther down the road. But you got an Anderson Silva video coming. Right now it's on Patreon, but I think I'll release it for you guys for his fight with Jake Paul, because it was a good one, and I'm proud of it. That's just about it, guys. I really appreciate you joining me here for this live stream that I just randomly pushed out to you. Enjoy the card. It's going to be a fun one. Can't wait to watch it. Join the Discord. We talk about fights all day, every day. We've got a fight picking contest going on where we are giving away some boxing gloves, some orange and black boxing gloves from Rev Gear. Thank you, Rev Gear, as always. And then for the next card, Adesanya versus Pereira, it's going to be the biggest fight picking contest we've ever done. We're giving away multiple prizes, giving away first, second, and third, maybe even more prizes than that. And that's going to be an amazing card as well. It's going to be the last pay-per-view of the year. So join the Discord, and you can kind of get in on that and be more in the loop about that kind of stuff. And I also got the Patreon channel memberships. I do some stuff on there. I've got some footage of me sparring on there, some jiu-jitsu matches that I've done, and whenever I do a new series, I put all that stuff on there first, and you guys have early access to that, and it really, really helps out the channel. So check that stuff out, and I appreciate it. And if not, just subscribing and watching my content, that's enough support for me too, and I appreciate all you guys. So thank you once again. I'm hungry. I'm going to eat, and you all have a good night. Bye-bye.